This video is for my art 5th grade. We are doing birch trees, and to give you an example of what birch trees look like, they have white bark and they are very kind of rough where the black is. And I've had some students ask me, and I think I have this upside down. Nope, it's right. I've had some students ask me, what if they don't have paint? What if they don't have markers? You can do this assignment with plain pencil. However, the way you're going to do your birch tree bark may not be the same as I'm going to teach today in this video. All right, so what's expected in this video? Remember, we did a scavenger hunt for bright colors. First of all, our bright colors are going to come in with our background. Notice there's no true green on my trees or on the grass. There's 2 lays of land. One is the foreground, the second one is the middle ground, and then we have the sky. And look at the sky, it's just as colorful as the ground and the trees. Okay, then the next component is what we're starting with, and that is birch trees. If you look at this one, I have shadows on both sides of the tree, and the center of the tree is very white. And then I have a second little one here. On this one, the shading isn't as exciting to look at. It doesn't come across as well. And so when you're doing your shading of your tree, if you're darker on the edge and then you come softly to the center to nothing, it's really good, and it makes it look like you have a little round shape of a trunk of a tree. So what's expected for this assignment? Besides our tree trunks, you're going to be creating the tree bark, and then we're going to be cutting strips to make our trees. Notice I got a thin tree and I got a fat tree. So which one should be in the foreground would be the fat one, because it would be closer to the viewer. And the one that's smallest would be in the background. Also, the small one can be tucked under a big one, if I can tuck that, and it starts to look like a branch. So you can make small ones for branches if you like. One thing that I require on this assignment is that you make really long trees, and you put them on your painting as what's the word I'm looking for? As far as you can up through the center to the sky. Okay, so it goes all the way to the top of your paper. If you have a tree that goes beyond that, that's not a problem. You'll just cut that off later. Okay, that gets trimmed. Why would you have one go way off the paper? Well, the bottom should be someplace on a lay of land. The bigger the tree, the more up front it goes, the more on the front piece of land it would go. The smaller the tree, it could go back here on this piece of land. Okay? And that way you can get like distance and depth showing on your art piece. All right, so I've showed you that you got thick and thin trees, and I showed you that the background is going to be colorful. Let's talk about making the tree branch bark color. Usually we start with a piece of paper that goes straight up and down. I am going to use a piece of scrap paper that I just folded so it gives a nice tight edge to it. It doesn't have flimsiness to it. The paint I am using is acrylic. It's kind of the consistency of toothpaste. For that reason, know that it is acrylic paint. And acrylic paint is the kind that gets stuck in your clothes and it doesn't come out. So if you're using acrylic at home, that would be like house paint, or it could be poster paint, or it could be just acrylic. Any of those have a little thickness to them. And when you chop it across your paint on your, let me do that again so you can see what I'm talking about. I take my little strip of paper and I basically chop it across my paint. So you want it on something that's going to be messy. In order to keep your table from getting messy with something, you can always start at the edge of your paper inside and just drag your paint across. It seems like my paint is a little drier than I'd like it to be. Okay, we'll do that again. Draw that across. Now I'm going to drag it across the other way. Can I go a couple times? Let's see. It's drier than I'd like, but you can just play around. What you're looking for in your tree trunk is that there's some black and there's some white in some places. I can also take my little thing and go across, which is kind of cool because that's exactly what happens on birch trees. I'm going to fill all my paper up with whatever technique. And like I said, if you don't have paint, if you don't have markers, something like that, you can always use your pencil. So how would you use your pencil to create this? You have dark spots, you have lighter spots. You might have some lines. So it could be just as effective. All right, so you're going to let that dry. And then when it's dry, you're going to cut your strips as long as your paper is long. Okay, cutting them this way. Thick and thin, remember that. Then you set that aside. All those tree limbs go and get set aside. Now we're ready for the background. Things to know about the background. First of all, what kind of material to use? You want to use something that is has the ability to be glued. This is chalky. So if you can see my finger, it's got chalk all over it because this is a chalky surface. If I were to use a lot of chalk, I might want to glue my birch trees down before I do my background. If I'm not worried about the gluing, then I can just go right ahead and paint it or use marker or whatever. Up here, in this section I use marker, and on this tree I use marker. And then I came back and I just put chalk over top. Now if you have sidewalk chalk, you can use that. You got all sorts of options with colored pencil. You might even think of, if you don't have any paint, any colored pencil or any markers, and you absolutely have no pencil or pens, you might think about using crazy things like tissue paper. You can use Kool-Aid. There's a lot of different things outside that you might be able to collect and use in your work, that you apply some needles for a tree. I'm kind of open with this because we're all in a bind with being remote, and a lot of kids may not have supplies that they need at home for these 2 weeks that we're online. So use your own discretion about what you use. But you went on a scavenger hunt for color. And so what I do have here is nothing that looks like a normal color. There's blends. It's blended. So my yellow does not look solid yellow. It has goldish kind of orange tones in it. And my pink up here looks more like coral. And my pinkish reds over here might be a little thin with the way I approach things here, but it's more like a pink color, and this turns more coral up here. My greens down here are more blue with yellow on top rather than green. I have one pine tree that's more like teal and has some purple in it. And the other pine tree is purple markers. It's got pink, like a burgundy marker, and then it's got chalk on top. So how many ways and how different can you make your background? Like this part right here is white. I need to add a color. Try to use all your paper and color it as much as you can. But what color would you choose for that spot? I might go with pale blue. It's very interesting. A lot of kids get the idea that everything has to be green if it's land, and everything has to be blue if it's sky. But I'm asking you to use many different colors in ways you would have never thought before. So when it's all put together, your landscape starts to look very interesting. Okay? All right, so I'm going to try to zoom out so you can see that. Oops, zooming in. Zoom out so you can see that a little bit better. All right, so there's my landscape. All right, hopefully this helps you understand where you're going with your birch bark and how you create your birch trees. All right, that's it for now, but when you're finished with these, remember to take a picture, fill in your whole camera screen with your image and make sure it's parallel to your image. Okay, have a nice night. Bye-bye.